You ain't bout it, you ain't bout it, you ain't kick on the mic. You ain't bout it, you ain't bout it, you ain't kick on the mic. You can go and subscribe, cause I be on it right. You ain't bout it, you ain't bout it, you ain't kick on the mic.
Hey, what's going on, Bears fans? Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Keek on the Mic, the podcast all about the Chicago Bears. As always, if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the bell notification to catch all Bears content right here on the podcast. As you guys can see, I am joined by, once again, Isaiah Fry. How you doing, Isaiah?
Good. How you doing?
I'm doing good. It's a long time no see. I know it's been a couple of weeks. I think it's been a couple of months since we did something. How are you doing?
I'm good. Good. Can't complain. Just like we were talking about, just running around with the little one, man, getting him right and, just working.
I do want to say that Isaiah's son can be successful in the Chicago Bears right now. He could probably help the Bears win right now.
Yeah, he's a little beast, man. Well got to stay the course, though. We'll see.
Yeah, I was just telling Isaiah before the podcast that, obviously I'm a dad now myself, and I'm like, I hope my daughter gets some of that, right? It's just like, I don't know what you're doing over there with your son, but he's a monster. So good for you and good for him for sure.
I appreciate you. Thank you.
So as you know, the talk around the NFL, besides the Super Bowl and the Kansas City Chiefs going back to back, it was about the Chicago Bears and quarterback Justin Fields. I know it's been a couple of weeks since we talked about that. The last time that we talked, you were very dead set on trade down and draft Marvin Harrison Jr. Where's your head at with this whole Chicago Bears #1 overall pick, Caleb Williams, Justin Fields talk?
I feel the same way I did earlier. I'm not changing my decision on what the Bears should do. I think, building around Justin Fields is the sure thing. Like, you have a quarterback that can play and can be dominant with the right pieces around him. I just firmly believe you don't waste a pick on an unknown and go into this same course of action that, the Chicago Bears have been on for the past few years. I think that's the more, certain pick is to trade down, get Marvin Harrison Jr. and then build around Justin.
And it just kind of sucks because, I like to believe that it does go both ways. I do feel like Caleb Williams is a very talented prospect. I think he's going to be a very good player in the National Football League. But I just think when you look at Chicago Bears fans, I think we just jumped the gun too early on these quarterbacks, right? I think Justin Fields was dealt a very crappy hand within this organization. Justin Fields was dealt with a whole ass rebuild. I think people forget that his #1 wide receiver a couple of years ago was Byron Pringle, right? So I just think Justin Fields with the right coaching, which it seems like they finally got the coaching right in Shane Waldron, a couple of other offensive pieces they brought in as well in terms of the coaching staff. Obviously that you have the chance to trade down, get multiple first round picks, multiple seconds, maybe a couple of impact players, Marvin Harrison Jr. You could still go at a guy like Curtis Samuel in free agency if you want to. I think it just seems like the pieces are finally falling in place. And I just think it'll be premature to just get rid of Justin Fields and not let him reap the benefits of that.
I agree. And I think a lot of times us fans, we get caught up on that #1 pick too much because if we look back, years and years, back, how many #1 pick quarterbacks are really dominant in the NFL? I mean,
right.
You got your Cam Newtons and, off the top of my head, I really can't think of anybody. I'm like, wow, obviously Jared Goff's doing pretty well, but it's still to the point where you can find a Jared Goff. If it doesn't work out this year, you can find a Jared Goff next year. You know what I mean? If it didn't work out with Justin, or, you can find a Patrick Mahomes next year and later in the draft. I think we put too much stock in the #1 pick. And, if they go to, like I said, they go down that same course of action, it's going to be the same thing. Caleb comes in, struggles, they fire Eberflus, and then you're down that rabbit hole once again, man. So
yeah, it's a never-ending cycle with the Chicago Bears organization, and I know I've talked a lot about that right here on the podcast, and that's what I'm really concerned about. Is I feel like we're already setting up Caleb Williams for failure with the expectations. Of course, you already have the expectations of being the #1 overall pick in the NFL draft. It's a big deal, right? You have those expectations, but I don't like the fact that people are putting Patrick Mahomes, as comparisons, and Aaron Rodgers. It's like, leave those guys alone. Let Caleb Williams, if he is the guy for the Chicago Bears, let Caleb Williams come in and be Caleb Williams, right? He's going to be a young kid. A lot of pressure to come into an organization that has never had a franchise quarterback to be successful in Chicago. So if that is the route, and I like to say that I do trust Ryan Poles, and if that's the direction he wants to go in, it is what it is at this point. We are just fans. But I just think that it would be a lot. And it's just like the Chicago Bears fans are just getting a little bit ahead of themselves.
Yeah, definitely. And Caleb, I think he'll be good. My personal opinion about him, I think he has a lot of work to do to be successful, but it has to be like I always say this about quarterbacks. You got to go into the right situation. If I make this comparison to everybody I have this conversation with. Had the Bears drafted Patrick Mahomes the year they drafted Mr. Trubisky, he would not be Patrick Mahomes right now, just because of the situation. It has nothing to do with his talent. It's just, for a quarterback, you got to come into a situation that's going to be able to grow and maximize your potential. And for him, he came with Andy Reid and had Alex Smith in front of him to kind of learn behind, so all those things matter. I know everybody wants the guy to come in and dominate from the get-go, but that's just not plausible. That's not the way the NFL works.
And it just cracks me up because it's just a couple of different things. One, the whole topic about, Caleb Williams being a generational talent. I don't like throwing the generational word out there because it's not fair to any of these young prospects, right? Because the NFL is a whole different type of beast coming from, college, especially playing in the Pac-12.
Right.
No disrespect. Obviously, I believe Andrew Luck played in the Pac-12 as well, and he was perfectly fine. But you're comparing Caleb Williams with the Andrew Lucks, with the Trevor Lawrences. And when you look at like Trevor Lawrence, that's not even a good comparison because look at Trevor Lawrence now, right? Kind of struggled last year, right? Even with the team around him. So when you put the generational tag on him, you're already putting that whole lot of pressure on a young kid like Caleb Williams. And he does have a whole lot of work to do. I'm not saying that down the road that he won't be special and he won't be good. But I think as soon as this year, if the Chicago Bears do decide to draft him, he's got to come in and lead this team to the playoffs this year. Because you're telling me if you're moving on from Justin Fields, this is my thinking. If you're moving on from Justin Fields and you're drafting a guy like Caleb Williams, you're telling me that Caleb Williams is better than Justin Fields right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Right now. And that's just my thinking. I know a lot of people disagree with me, but that's how I'm thinking.
Yeah. And that's the perfect way to think. I think because what Ryan Poles has done to this point is build a team that's being able to compete, right? And now you're in your third season and you got the pieces in place to make a run at something next year. So why start over? I agree with you on that. It's like, you need a guy to come in. If he's better than Justin Fields, so be it. But I don't see it right now, honestly.
Yeah, everything is in place, Isaiah. You're going to have a top 10 defense going in to next season, right? Obviously, Eberflus said yesterday in his press conference that he's going to remain the play caller, which is excellent. That's exactly what needed to happen because he understands that his job is on the line as well.
Right.
So you're going to have a top 10 defense. You're going to be still third in cap space. Two top 10 picks in the 2024 NFL draft. The Bears are set up really nicely. Kudos to Ryan Poles and how he's built this roster. But it's like, I just don't think picking a quarterback is the right move. Of course, Caleb Williams is an outstanding prospect, but for me, I'm also thinking, why is Caleb Williams the number one guy? How about Drake May? How about Jaden Daniels? There's other guys out there.
Yeah, there's
for all we know, Ryan Poles could very well trade down still and draft Drake May or draft Jaden Daniels and still collect those picks, right?
Yeah.
So, and that's my big thing. At this moment, everyone that's kind of debating the Caleb Williams and Justin Fields thing, it's a preference thing. No one knows exactly what Ryan Poles and the Chicago Bears are going to do. So until Ryan Poles comes out and says what he's going to do, it's just a preference thing between us fans.
For sure. And you look now in the NFL, let's look at the top 5 quarterbacks. How many of them are actually number one picks? Let's think about that.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, obviously number one, we all know who number one is right
Patrick
now.
Mahomes. Yep.
Yeah, he's on his own level. But then you have Josh Allen, right?
Yep.
Josh, I don't know what pick he was, but I know he wasn't number one. Lamar Jackson.
30. He was like what, 31?
Yeah, right. So, and then there's a couple other guys I'm thinking of.
Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant.
It's just it. You can make the CJ Stroud argument, but he was number 2,
right?
But it's always says the NFL draft is always a crapshoot, man. You're taking a gamble on somebody that you really don't know if he's going to succeed or not. You're hoping for the best at the end of the day.
Right, for sure. And obviously the NFL Combine is going to be starting next Thursday. And there was a report by Jeremy Fowler that came out saying that the Bears are going to finalize their plans as soon as next week. And I know that Mike Florio just came out on the Rich Eisen podcast and was just saying, it's just kind of interesting to me, like the timeline of everything, that they want to finalize their plans at the quarterback position. That makes me believe that if they want to finalize those plans next week at the Combine, that makes me believe, this is what Mike Florio said, that makes me believe that they're leaning towards keeping Justin Fields and trading the number 1 overall pick. And the reason why he's saying that is because You can't just have one meeting with Caleb Williams at the combine and says, "Oh, that's our guy."
Right.
There's so much else that goes into it. And I understand they probably already been doing their homework, calling different people on Caleb Williams, and maybe they do have that decision made up. But Mike Florio actually makes some sense here because that's like a quick turnaround, right? Because there's just so much work that goes into it. And he's thinking if they're trying to have that finalized, that makes it seem like they're going to the combine to finalize a trade for the number 1 overall pick.
Yeah. And that can happen. That's where a lot of those discussions happen there. So like we said, man, I just think it'd be good for the team to do it that way. And, you can get there's a lot of good players in this draft, man. Like, Caleb obviously is, really good, but then you got Marvin Harrison Jr. You got my guy Laiatu Latu. You got a whole bunch of guys out there that you can go get, man, and really help this team out.
Yeah, it's just like this draft is stacked with talent. Like even when you look at the receivers, right? You have Marvin Harrison Jr., but Malik Nabers, Rome Odunze, and then even like going down the list, Xavier Worthy out of Texas. There's guys out there that are going to be studs in the National Football League. And then of course you look at the offensive tackles. Bears still need the offensive lineman help. They need a center help. We need edge rushers. The Chicago Bears have a lot of holes to fill. And I think that's one of the arguments that we use for people that want to keep Justin Fields in trading down is that the Bears only have 6 draft picks in the 2024 NFL draft. So they need to figure out a way to get more picks. And plus, we don't have a 2nd round pick due to the fact that we traded for Montez Sweat at the trade deadline last year. Which was a great trade, by the way. Obviously, you were skeptical at first, but he was. But it was a great trade. But the Chicago Bears only have 6 draft picks, and Ryan Poles is very big on building through the NFL draft. How are you going to build through the NFL draft if you just take one guy at number 1 and at number 9? Okay, you can trade down from number 9, but it's not going to be as big of a haul compared to trading a number 1 overall pick.
Right. I agree.
So I don't envy his position whatsoever.
No, but like you said, I trust him. He's been doing a good job up to this point. And what I've noticed about him, he loves to throw smokes and mirrors out there. He's kind of he's that type of guy. He's very tactical. So, I can appreciate the the way he moves in his operation. So, it'll be interesting to see what he's going to decide to do.
So at this point, Isaiah, if we do trade the number 1 overall pick, who are you trading with? Are you still down to trade with the Commanders, the Patriots? Are you just basically Marvin Harrison Jr. a bust? Is that how your mindset still is?
Yeah, for sure. Like we said earlier, we don't like to use the word generational, but I'm going to use the word generational for Marvin Harrison Jr. I think he has the pedigree to be absolutely fantastic. I mean, obviously his dad was a stud, and we've seen what he's done in college. That's a plug and play. You don't get too many players where he's going to come in and be successful in his first season. So, as much as they want a quarterback, everybody wants a quarterback with the first pick. Get Marvin Harrison Jr. You're going to have production from him next year.
Right. And then basically, we've had a lot of talk about what we're doing with the number 1 overall pick, but where are you standing in that number 9 overall for the Bears? So what players are you looking for?
It depends on how they go in the first pick. But I wouldn't mind seeing an O lineman or another edge rusher. I spoke with my guy. Like I would love to see him get drafted. That'd be this is my selfish talk. But obviously he's the best pass rusher in the draft. So I mean, I would like them to go either O line or edge rusher again. That'd be good.
It really just depends what they do with the number 1 overall pick. If they do take Caleb, I think you're forced to take a tackle or a receiver at 9, right? Or some type of weapon. But if you do trade down and get Marvin Harrison Jr., it gives you a little bit more flexibility to maybe explore different avenues. For me, I think I'm trading down from number 9 and then try my best to get Jackson Powers Johnson, the center out of Oregon. I am enamored off of Jackson Powers Johnson. I don't know why. He's just a monster. He's the best center in the NFL draft. Yeah. Obviously, the Bears have a major need at center. We cannot neglect the center position once again. It's an important position, right? I think we got the right tackle figured out. The left tackle, love him or hate him, I think Braxton Jones is a starting caliber left tackle in the National Football League. But the center position needs to be addressed for the Chicago Bears, and that's why I'm really have my eyes set on Jackson Powers Johnson.
Yeah, I agree. The thing with center though that I've always been wary about, and if you listen to Jason Kelsey talk with his brother on his podcast, he kind of speaks the same thing. It's hard to get really good centers, but it's also really easy to hide them in the game. You know what I mean? Like, obviously we had your guy a couple years ago.
Why is it just my guy?
guy, man. What was his name again?
Sam Mustipher.
Sam Mustipher, man. But in a perfect world, if you get 4 guys around someone like that, and you're able to kind of protect his weaknesses, then you'll be fine. But if they were to go O-line, my preference would be either finding another tackle or stud guard. My personal opinion.
Okay. Yeah. Either way, the Bears have to shore up this offensive line. No matter if it's Caleb Williams or Justin Fields, you got to be able to protect the quarterback, right? So moving on and speaking about Justin Fields, obviously he went on the St. Brown's Brothers podcast, and I felt like it was a really good listen. It really was. Justin Fields was really candid. What do you take about all this drama about him unfollowing the Chicago Bears and the National Football League? Do you agree with it and his decision to actually unfollow, or do you think it was a little too much on his part?
I get it. I mean, at the end of the day, if you really just don't want to see the information, just log out of your account. That's what I would do. That's like, I've had times when I was playing where you play a game that you're not happy about, and then you're getting cussed out and told how bad of a player you are. So you just log out, and just kind of ignore it. I mean, I get it, but you're sitting like if you don't want those headlines, then you just don't do stuff like that. That's people are going to talk about that regardless. Everybody needs something to talk about, and you're giving people more information. Yeah, more fuel and information to talk about. So I get it to an extent, but then I also was like, okay, you don't want to see it, just log out. It's simple.
Yeah, and yeah, it is that simple. He could have just logged out. I think he did add unnecessary attention.
Right.
But at the same time, it's like I do feel for him because at the end of the day, he's like, just let me know if I'm going to be traded or not. Because Justin Fields is very much, he likes to get into the playbook, right? And learn the offense, especially with the new offensive coordinator and Shane Waldron coming to Chicago. He's just ready to put the work in, right? And get prepared for next season. So I do understand that. And the Bears at least owe him that. If they're going to move on, finalize your decision here pretty soon. Either keep him or trade him and let's move on, right? So like I said, I don't think he should have did it that way because it does cause unnecessary attention. People are always waiting in their mother's basement, ready to, make this type of report. But I guess it is what it is at the end of the day, right?
The funniest thing when I hear these reports about people like unfollowing like other, our organizations, like who's the person sitting there going on Justin Fields' account, typing in Chicago Bears, NFL, like, are you that bored to be able to just go to his account and do that? I don't get it.
Like, do you have a job? Do you have some work to do? Do you have a bill to pay? Something to do? Like, It's crazy to me. And that's why, like, right when I saw it, I was like, oh, here we go. Because you saw it with Kyler Murray a couple years ago. You saw it with a couple other different players, and it's like, it always happens when their futures are uncertain, and like I said, this could all be part of the plan. Who knows? Maybe Ryan Poles and the Chicago Bears have talked to Justin Fields already and said, hey, this is part of our plan. Do this, this, and this to kind of make it seem like, we're not interested.
For sure. 100%.
So this could all be part of the plan. This is what I love about this. The Bears do hold all the leverage to the NFL offseason. People are waiting to see what the Chicago Bears either do with the number 1 overall pick or quarterback Justin Fields.
Right.
Once that domino falls, all the pieces will fall into place for the rest of the National Football League.
Yep.
So, yeah. So personally, Isaiah, I think I try to tell my fans and the listeners, Bears fans in general, this. We are just fans at the end of the day. We have to trust Ryan Poles' decision. But I feel like the message I'm trying to preach is just keep that positivity. We shouldn't be attacking each other. We're all Bears fans. We all want to see a winner in Chicago. And it's just ridiculous that people can't just respect other people's opinions, right? If you love Justin Fields, you want to keep Justin Fields and trade down, cool. If you want Caleb Williams and Rome Odunze at 9, cool. Because at the end of the day, I think they're both great situations. And I think Ryan Poles has this franchise going in the right direction.
This whole ordeal, it really reminds me of the movie Draft Day.
Yeah.
It's like the same scenario. They got the number 1 pick. They can trade down, and there's just guys out there that people love, and there's guys out there that people hate. Yeah, but like you said, man, I think everybody just needs to trust Poles to do his job, and he hasn't shown us why he wouldn't be able to make the right decision. So either way he goes, even if it's not the way that you and I are hoping that it goes, you got to trust him. That's what he's getting paid for, and then may the cards fall where they lay, man. We'll see how the season goes after that.
Right, for sure. And before I let you go, one more question for you: if they do decide to trade Justin Fields, What's the perfect destination for him in his next stop in the National Football League?
Man, there's a lot of spots he can go and be very successful. I think I would like to see him, my personal opinion, I think Pittsburgh would be a really good spot for him. Him and Mike Tomlin, man, I like that combo right there. Atlanta obviously is a place that would be successful for him. They have all the pieces in place to be a really good offense with him.
Right.
Back there running quarterback. Who else you got? You got Denver.
Denver would be interesting. Yeah.
Be interesting. There's a lot of places, man, that can use a guy like him and just take their team to the next level. Nobody knows what's going on with Kirk Cousins, so Minnesota's an option. There's a whole lot, man. I can keep going. So
please no to Minnesota. Oh my God, can you imagine twice a year having to face Justin Fields and him just giving us the business? Oh my God.
Him and Justin Jefferson, man, come on.
Yeah, you know what's funny is that I see analysts all the time talking about, hey, the Bears need to move on from Justin Fields and trade him. Right? It's not going to work in Chicago. But if he goes to the Pittsburgh Steelers, that makes them Super Bowl contenders. Let me understand your thinking here.
Make that make sense.
Make that make sense to the people that are listening on this episode of Geek on the Mic as well. So you're saying it's not going to work here. Don't build around them here in Chicago. They won't be Super Bowl contenders. But if you go to the Steelers or if you go to the Falcons, they're Super Bowl contenders with Justin Fields. Like, you can't make this stuff up.
And make it up, man. You know what I've noticed since I've played and have been done playing. There's two things for certain around this time of the year that a lot of people are going to be asking for. It's like clockwork. Every single year, no matter how good they're doing, how bad they're doing, it doesn't matter. A team's always going to want a new quarterback, and a team's always going to want some new corners every year.
Yeah, that is true.
They want a new corner. Doesn't matter if the corner was the best player. It don't matter. They want new corners every single year. That's how it works, man.
That is very, very true. Because we're kind of having that conversation with Jalen Johnson right now. Like, we're good. We got Tyreek Stevenson. You know what I mean? But it's like, no, Tyreek Stevenson won't be as good without Jalen Johnson.
Every year, man. They always it's like clockwork. New corners. We all new corners. Like, no, man. That's not how it works, man. Every corner's gonna get beat at some point. I don't care who you are. Right.
So this is gonna be interesting. Next couple of weeks. Obviously, the combine is next week. That's when things are gonna start heating up. But I'm looking forward to it. Finally, laying this conversations to bed and kind of moving on with either direction they go in. But once again, Isaiah, I can't wait to have you on again. Talk a little bit more Bears football. Once we finally make a decision, have you back on. We can finally dive into maybe some offseason stuff and the directions they can go in, whether it's Justin Fields or they're going to pick Caleb Williams at number 1 overall. But once again, thank you so much for coming on.
Definitely. I'm excited to see what the decision is going to be made. And, like we said, man, Poles is going to make the right decision regardless, whether it's the way we want it or not. And he's going to have to roll with it.
Yep, I definitely believe that. And as always, to you, Isaiah, bear down to you.
Bear down.
You've been listening to Geek on the Mic, a podcast all about the Chicago Bears. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell notification to catch all Bears content right here on the podcast. Thanks, guys, and bear down.